Hello, I've been trying to get the chance to do a video for a while, so here we go. Let's have a look at some of the autumn flowering bulbs that are now coming in, starting with some crocuses here. Growing here in the small cobble bed, which is a sand bed that was covered in cobbles to stop the mice digging up and eating the crocus corms. You can see some of them are going over a wee bit and are a bit battered, but there's still plenty hoverflies around. You can see how many stems you get from a single corm that's increasing, and then as these go over there's a whole bunch more of new different crocuses coming up here, so plenty more to come. We've got different ones. This is a hybrid that I raised from a form of speciosus, but it's obviously crossed with cochianus or pulchellus or something. It's produced what I just call garden hybrids. We've lots of that. It's prolific, it sets seed, and it does well. Coming up here we've a mixture. Here we've got this white one, Crocus vallicola, with the very wispy acuminate tips to the petals or floral segments. There's another. Quite often vallicola the wispy tips will hang on to each other at the top, forming this sort of open protection for it allows pollinators in, but gives some level of extra heat and protection to the pollen inside. Of course we get slugs and snail damage. There's a flower being chopped off by a slug and snail. So that's the wee ones in the bed. As I come past, there's another Crocus vallicola has got into this trough. But the rest of the garden, the leaves are starting to come down, so the rest of the garden's a bit autumny. Crocuses that get into the crack in the paving slabs when they come down. Look at that. Look at that little row. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, these are the accidents that happen in a garden that make gardening so pleasurable and worthwhile. So that's again one of these hybrid forms. If I come round to the erythronium beds, there's perhaps less of the nudiflorous flowering this year, because this half of the bed I replanted, so I took some of the stray crocus out, but there's a lot of crocus to come there. So it's white nudiflorous and the more typical nudiflorous. Of course, in our garden, bulbs never stay where they're supposed to, and if I just poke about in the path, this is supposed to be the path. There's a whole batch of them in the path. Really nice to have such things. More up here that are just going over now. They've been out for a couple of weeks. If I just move around, you can see the sorbus leaves everywhere. This particular sorbus, the leaves just turn brown and drop, and the berries have been coming off. We come round to the more nudiflorous albus and some of the Cyclamen hedrifolium. This is a group of silverleaf forms, and if I just push on, they go right on in there. Right on, if I can reach out and go beyond. You can see them all the way in amongst the leaves there, underneath these ovularia that are starting to go back. Once more, all these nudiflorous are just, how they get here I'm never quite sure, but they get here and they pop up and appear everywhere. There's another cyclamen down there at the base of a tree. I come round here, the more colchicum. Let's go back this way to just have a look. A bit scruffy now because they've been out for a while, but they still put colour into the garden. Eucomis bicolour. Another plant of the late summer into autumn. I come up the rock garden bed, poking up through the leaves, cyclamen coming through the leaves, and more cyclamen nudiflorus, crocus nudiflorus, nice dark coloured forms. So there's a lot more cyclamen to come up in this bed as well. All coming through these are the leaves of Ruscoia. Again, in the middle of the path, another group of crocus. And more colchicum. I'm just fine. Aha! Here we come. The colchicum, Ruscoia. This is the red form of purpurascens, the red gurka, I think it's purpurea. And here's the Harvington, one of the Harvington hybrids. Really good, robust plant that. It's been flowering for some time and will just keep on flowering until the frosts. But much of the garden's really suffered in the heat and the dry. But long dry summer, very unusual for us here. So a lot of the stuff's gone down early. Here's an allium, Wallichi, coming up. I've got a big colony of it over there, but I'm starting to spread it over to this side as well. Veratrum fimbriatum. Flowers are a bit battered and tired, and again the leaves are never their best when the flowers come out, but this year the dry conditions have meant they're particularly scabby looking at this time of year. If we just walk around, you can see up around here there's more cyclamen and colchicums. I want to see a wee robin over there. Got a few robins pop about the garden with me. Up to the new bed by the pond, it's starting to waken up. It's got this lovely red mulch of pine needles that I just renewed yesterday, was it? Yes, yesterday. I gathered these down the street. There's a big pine tree that grows in the graveyard, and there's a big wall, sort of 8-foot high wall, and the pine tree hangs over the wall towards the pavement. And these pine needles drop on at this time of year. And the rain we had last week brought a lot of the pine needles down, so I go down the street with my bag and scoop up sufficient, because although we've got quite a few pines in the gardens, this gives me a good supply of them to mulch this bed. And I particularly like the colour it puts, and I think it looks particularly good and natural with the crocus coming through. So we've got a few different crocus here. This is Nudiflorus albus, Nudiflorus. Here we have Benaticus, very easily to see because look at the 3 inner segments are shorter than the outer 3. The most distinct of all the crocuses probably. And then here we have Valicola. And there's another white Nudiflorus. There's a lot more popping up. Difficult to see. I think they'll be mostly, from what I can see, Benaticus. Nudiflorus albus has fallen over and lying. on the mulch, but you can see what a difference the mulch makes. Well, it does two jobs, or three jobs. It keeps moisture in, I suppose. It looks really good, and it helps keep the little weeds down. And believe me, there's plenty weeds been around this season. So if I come round, everywhere I look, there's fat buds coming through of crocuses. Here's some more Valicola, or Valicola, however you want to say it. I alternate. They vary a bit if you look inside. So there's different clones that we've raised from different wild locations, and then it's all garden seed. Here's been a Ruscoia, and again surrounded by a group of crocus. So there's the ponds and the new bed. This bed up here hasn't got a lot of the autumn flowering bulbs in, it's more of the spring flowering bulbs. But everywhere as I walk around I'll find Cyclamen. And as we come out here we'll find more nice Cyclamen white forms, and round there we've got the pink forms. And the gravel area is becoming more and more populated with bulbs, and it's this gravel area where I suppose if you've got to call such plants as digitalis and the wee violas, if you call them weeds, then this is probably the weediest place in the garden, is in the gravel, and I'm continually trying to keep it clear. But I wonder if I'm giving myself too much work, and I wouldn't be better allowing a ground cover to come, because the bulbs will come up perfectly happily through the ground cover. Here we have some Cyclamen, a silver leaf form, patterned leaf form. These are all hedropholium, by the way. Different leaf shapes and colours. So I'm beginning to wonder if as much as we've enjoyed the gravel, it's becoming more and more of a task to try and keep it clear. Maybe we should just let certain plants form a ground cover, because we have very little problem of weeds in the beds. I don't know if you can see, or if I can zoom in, but this alliums are just buzzing. Well, they don't buzz, but hovering with hoverflies. There's just masses of them. They really are everywhere, so they're obviously, although not spectacular flowers visually to us, there's something very attractive to them. It certainly draws in all these hoverflies. Fuchsia procumbens growing down here. Tiny little flowers when it flowers. These are the seed pods just starting to swell. I'm trying to do two things at once here. There you can see them. There's more in there. If they get a good ripening process, there's a cluster of them in there, they should turn bright red. But so far they've never done that in our garden. Oh, here's a little flower. There's the flower. Tiny little subtle flower. Smallest of the fuchsias. Autumn colour on the digitalis. Seeds from peonies, which I haven't, admit, not to have been collecting. And look, here's what happens in our garden. So the peonies deposit the seeds, and the next thing I know there'll be a cluster of peonies, and this group here are all self-seeding, so you get a variation in the leaves. So that's one seedling that's been deposited in the path from a previous plant. Here's the parent plant further in. So you get this range of leaves. If I just come in here, we can see just the last, some of the colchicums I planted out in this bit just a year or so ago. And you can see how I like to plant them as individuals, scattered, dotted here and there, rather than all in one place. So we'll wind off as the children next door come out to play. Go past the betula with its lovely bark, and let's finish down here with colchicum in the sunshine. So that's a brief walk around the garden showing you the autumn flowering bulbs. So thanks for being with me, and I'll be back when there's something else to show you. And here's the evening sun setting over the bulb log garden.